Donanımları da, bir kısım donanımları da bu gemide vardı. Ve bu gemi ile bundan sonra da düzenlenecek seferlerle bu hastanenin tam donanımlı hale getirilmesini düşünüyor İHA. Ve yine tüm kardeş partner teşkilatlarla bu konuda görüşmeler devam ediyor. Gazze için gerekli tüm tıbbi araç gereç ilaç ve malzemelerin temini hususunda bütün engellemelere rağmen çalışmalar devam ediyor. Bu büyük hastanenin açılışı sanıyorum bu gürültü içerisinde fark edilmedi ama büyük bir hastane oluşturuldu orada.
As IHH, we can express that because of this rush happening and occurrences was forgotten and cannot be known through media, that an hospital was opened and now being operated. So for that hospital we also put and provided many medical equipments in that flotilla. Unfortunately wasn't successful, and beside that further helps can be organized, and with other brothers and sister organizations can organize and do some further helps for medical equipments, and of course medical equipments with vehicles and whatever needed should be organized to support that hospital which is now operating in there.
So this hospital is in Gaza, or where is this hospital located?
Nerede? Yeri olarak nerede?
Tam bir şey o konuda bilmiyorum. Bana verilen bilgiler konusunda yani yer konusunda bilgilerde eksiklik var. Yani ben açıldığına dair bilgim var.
I have only information that that hospital was open and operated, but I have no information that was given to me that where it's located.
Thank you. In our previous mission, PGPO and Peace Malaysia, or Aman Malaysia, sent some medical equipment and also medicine to a Palestinian hospital in Rafah, which is in the Egyptian side. So that and it's run by Palestinian doctors. Patients, mostly children, are also Palestinian. So that's one way we provide medical help to good people there. I was passed this by Dennis, this book by IHH, Palestine, Our Route, Humanitarian Aid, Our Load, Flotilla Campaign Summary Report. It's a very concise, very comprehensive report by IHH about the mission, and I'm very happy to see that on the picture right in the front is a picture of the boat, and very clearly has all the flags there, including the Malaysian flag. So answering the question posed to Ashwat just now about documenting the experience, I think this first attempt by IHH is exemplary. So please, if you have the opportunity to have a look at this, there's probably also a website that contains it. I'd like to pose a question to Professor Chosudowski. This is from Zakaria Abdullah from the Global Peace Mission, GPM. Question is, what could be the motivating factor why the USA keeps on justifying Israeli criminal acts to the detriment of its own, by USA's own international stature and credibility? That's the first question. I'm sure you can have a good bite at that. Second question is, why was the Goldstone report on Israeli atrocities in Gaza, why did it fail to reach the UN, and how? That's the question. And is there a possibility of bringing Israeli war crimes to the International Criminal International Court of Justice in The Hague? And if not, why? And the last question here is, has Egypt become an extension of Israeli apartheid policy next to the USA?
Yeah, these are very inspiring questions. I think, first of all, the premise that the United States has some kind of international stature and credibility, that premise I would question at the outset. The United States is the #1 rogue state in the world today. It has its defense budget, bear in mind, its defense budget swallows up 70% of what Americans pay in federal income tax. 70%. The figures that you have to look at the breakdown of these figures. It is a country which is impoverishing its population. It is a country which is supporting financial fraud and manipulation, leading the collapse of living standards worldwide. Bear in mind, Israel may have a certain sway through the lobby groups on US foreign policy, but ultimately Washington calls the shots. We have a tremendous arsenal of weapons. They call them weapons of peace, but we call them weapons of mass destruction, using their own terminology which they apply against their enemies. I think the problem is that you have a political system where criminals occupy high office. Okay? That's what we have. Criminals are occupying high office. And this is not the definition of organized crime which is conveyed to us. Organized crime exists, but it's subordinate to these political criminals. It's subordinate to the economic crimes which pervade Wall Street, the oil companies, the big pharmaceutical giants, the agribusiness conglomerates with genetically modified seeds which they're now imposing on the farmers in Iraq and Afghanistan, and which breaks the agricultural cycle. So there's no stature for the United States in world affairs. And Obama may sound to be smarter than his predecessor. He certainly has a higher IQ than George W. Bush. But and he looks like he's a nice person. But he is also a puppet. Please understand, he is also a puppet. And those who pull the strings behind the scenes are the oil companies and the Wall Street financial institutions. They don't have any stature in the world today. And in substance, if Israeli leaders were to be judged for their war crimes, we would have a whole bunch of people who would be also judged for their war crimes. So there are different levels of criminality, and the problem is that these criminals, they stick together. They wield power, they control the political system, and they stick together. There's a very interesting film which has come out recently, which is called Ghostwriter, and it's the story of Tony Blair, how he was in fact, it's supposed to be fiction, but in effect it really is quite well documented by Roman Polanski, one of his last movies, and where you see that in fact Tony Blair who was a non-entity, was recruited by the CIA to become head of government. And so that the intelligence apparatus controls the politicians, and the intelligence apparatus serves the interests of the global banks and the oil companies, and then you have a bunch of figureheads